Okay, today we are going to do some back-to-back testing. I've got a Fox DHX2 coil with the steel, whatever, I don't know, it's not factory. But and then I've got the float DHX2 as well. That was the stock rear shock for this bike. I got a 450-pound coil on here, and yeah, just see how it does. Also, I just got this Fox 38 opened way up. I had the Grip 2 damper serviced by Lascaux, and they did a extra light rebound tune and a lightweight compression tune, which seems super promising, especially as conditions get colder. When the fork is, not warmed up, it tends to perform pretty sluggish in the winter, I found, so stoked to have that. And I like a nice, snappy, fast, silky rebounding fork. So anyway, let's drop in here. We're just gonna do 2 half laps of double down. I think I've got 2 rides on this coil, and then we'll go back to the air, which I've had since the bike was brand new. Pretty chunky trail. That's why I wanted to do double down today, especially this section here. Oh well, yeah, bike felt pretty darn soft through there. Gotta be honest, that was pretty nice. It does feel silky back there. I was pretty astonished just how much freer flowing that coil is versus the float. Pretty surprising just how much internal friction there is on the air shock. Yeah, this thing feels pretty pillowy today. Been doing all kinds of tweaks to this bike. I did a bar chop down. I think with the long top tube, I just needed a bit more mobility in the bars. Wow. I gotta say, yeah, that rear end feels super silky right now. Fairly wet conditions today, but I think the trails have cured for the season, so they're a bit grippier than some of those first rains. Yeah, the bike, I am running just a little bit of low speed compression or rebound, and the bike does just feels very settled right now. And this trail tends to be a pretty high frequency beat you up kind of trail. Just check my rear tire. Running the tire is a bit softer today too, so that should remain the same between tests. But I gotta say, this bike is eating a tremendous amount of energy right now. Not super easy to pop the bike up. I think I'm liking this shorter bar chop. Yeah, bike is very smooth right now, and a little bit more on the ground hugging side, I'd say. Not super poppy. I think just adding that little bit of low speed rebound has gotten this bike to feel a bit more glued to the ground. Not as playful and poppy as I would probably end up wanting it, but when that coil was wide open, it is pretty snappy. Yee. Fun conditions today. Good to be just on a nice, lovely, wide open trail, and the grip is pretty great today. Yeah, coil's eating a lot of energy, keeping that rear end super chill. I don't know why I took that line, but here we are. Yeah. Feels like I'm on a bike with more travel than the last time I rode this trail. Feels pretty silky. Yeah, this is one of those trails usually I get to the bottom and I'm just kind of beat up and my hands hurt from having to grip the bars. Eee. I think it helps that the trail is wet, but Even on a wet day, this thing will beat you up. Recording again with the DJI Osmo Action 5. Stoked to have that for the dark winter we have coming up. Yeah, it feels like the bike is wallowing a bit more, which is pretty nice for this trail. But I'm having to pull fairly hard to pop it. Guess that's one takeaway. Energy eating is pretty phenomenal. Eating a ton of energy. Super smooth, silky ride. Leaves covering up all the roots, but feels like traction's pretty dang good today. Couple big meaty limbs down. Okay, we got some brake bumps here. Wow, the bike really ate those up today. Yeah, this will be such an interesting back and forth just for me to see what that air is gonna feel like with that float. Eee. Man, bike felt pretty soft. But yeah, definitely I had to work a bit harder to yank the bike up. So now we'll swap shocks and yeah, see what that raw back to back feels like. Should be distinct, I would think. All right, we are back up at Double Down Top and trying out the Float X2. And this is the one that came stock with the Firebird, so it has a bit more special valving. Compression is wide open. Let me see if nope, yep, rebound's wide open. So much more internal friction on these air shocks that definitely notice the difference of like the internal friction when I swap to that coil. It's just like I actually added some rebound damping, whereas the air, it seems like that friction from the extra chambers makes the shock a little stickier, which is, you know, a form of damping. Definitely like the RockShox stuff better from the factory, since you can, you know, hit the target. Oh, what a fool I would be if I left the firm lever on. Should be a prerequisite that if you're the kind of person who's ever ridden more than a half mile of trail without knowing that their lockout lever is on, consider not spending as much money on suspension. Okay, dropping in. Oh yeah, still swallowing the bumps super well. Yeah, it does. Oh yeah, feels a lot more damp and slow back there actually. Oh, you know what? I think they just fixed that section. That's why that's running so smoothly. Used to be bumpier. It's not just the suspension. Yeah, it feels, the float definitely feels more damped and sticky. Kind of just like inherently eating more energy back there on like a friction basis. So that's pretty wild. Yeah, it actually, I'd say the bike feels less poppy. At least it's probably like 45, 50 degrees Fahrenheit today, so a little cooler, but you know, which makes your tires rebound slower. It feels very settled though. I've always said that about that X2. That float is that it kind of like definitely makes for a calmer feeling bike. And is it a good thing that that calmness comes from, you know, friction? Maybe. Whatever. Yay! Yeah, I'd say actually the bike feels a hair more manageable. A little bit more stuck to the ground feeling. It's quite silky, eats a lot of energy. Doesn't feel as free floating as the coil. Just feels like there's the friction. It's definitely what it feels like going back and forth. But friction, not necessarily a bad thing, because the bike does feel pretty calm, and it feels like I could send it with this bike and it's just not gonna get as chattery feeling. I honestly thought I would say that this, okay, I felt more feedback through that section. I was really kind of hammering into stuff. So the coil definitely took the edge for eating energy through there. I think just the air shock just couldn't react as fast as the coil. Yeah, I'm starting to feel that more clearly now. Rolling over more bumps. Just that air shock clearly isn't moving as fast. Slower shaft speed than the coil shock, which is what is supposed to be the difference. So it's cool to feel that reality out here on the trails. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. How does the pop is surprisingly good with the air shock, I think, because just the deeper you get into that air ramp up, the more support you get versus the coil, and then you multiply that with the linkage of this bike is, fairly supportive, progressive. Not a massive difference though. Gotta do the tree jump. Yeah, I'd say this configuration's beating me up just like a hair more. It is second lap. Could just be more fatigued, but I'm pretty sure that shock is just responding slower. But with that, the bike does feel very manageable and chill. And the setup is just gonna be easier, I can tell, with that air shock. Whereas you might be able to get the coil to feel like this. Maybe a better version of this. Yeah, some square edge hits through there. Feeling those as well, a little bit more. Same air pressure, same everything. Exact same trail conditions. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling more feedback through the bars, 100%. But I do feel very comfortable on this coil, or on the air shock. Just feels very predictable and a little bit slower rolling. Calm, but not in like a eating it all kind of way, more in like a more in like a damping friction, weird kind of damping. So pretty interesting. I'd say the coil won today. I was hoping the air shock would pull up a little bit in the pop department, but I don't think it did. Everything felt fairly slow rebounding today, although I did have one or two clicks of rebound on that coil just to chill it out a bit, so maybe I could have gotten it feeling more poppy. Yeah, is this like night and day? No, definitely a fatigue difference though with the coil. It was yeah, I feel more fatigued. It is second lap, but I feel like the bike would just like hammer through stuff a little bit less encumbered. I think that just is hitting a higher shaft speed, more reactive to the trail, which does make sense. Yeah, a few of you guys were asking for a bike check, which I'll try to do soon. I think that'd be fun. I got to get my Specialized saddle that just broke off there that they didn't warranty. But yeah, the bike is feeling great. Kind of a fun tweak to go shorter on the bars. I was feeling like in corners, when I'd turn with the longer bars, I was just even more stretched out. So rolled the bars back a hair and then went to 780, which I'm hoping would make this large size Firebird slice around a little bit easier. And if it doesn't, I might explore doing like a reach adjust headset just to get the bike to feel exactly how I want on a slower speed trail. High speed trail, it's dialed, love it, but slower speed trail, could be a little bit more darty. I do miss that about the size medium some days. So getting a lot of arm strength back, so I'm able to shred a little harder after my super long-term elbow injury. So, but yeah, hope you guys find that interesting. Comment your questions. I'll try to help if I can, and just kind of a fun experiment for us all. With that, we're out.